everyone, it's Jennifer from Flux. Welcome back to week 2 of our 2023 fall crochet along. We are making this super cute crochet pumpkin tower. This is a really easy project to make. It's super fun, and we're going to learn how to do it every step of the way together over the next couple weeks. Now, last week we talked about the intro to the project, the sizing, and the supply. So if you missed that, the link is down below. Today, we're going to jump right in and learn how to start crocheting these pumpkins, all 3 sizes. We have a large, medium, and small, and we're going to learn how to do each one of those. Now, this is also going to be a rectangle, and later on in our crochet along in a couple of weeks, we're going to learn how to seam it all together to create a 3D pumpkin shape. But for today, we're going to learn how to make 3 different sized rectangles that will later be pumpkins. So let's get started. As always, the links are down below for our Ravelry group and our Facebook group. You can jump in there, say hello. If you haven't joined them yet, be sure to hop in there and join. You can get some ideas for colors and yarn choices, and it's always a fun place to hang out. The links are down below for that. If you're on social media, be sure and use the hashtag FiberFluxCal. You can see that above here, and use that hashtag, and so everybody can see everybody's work. It's really fun to see what everybody's doing. Okay, so I grabbed just my pumpkin colors today. We're going to be making 3 pumpkins, large, medium, and small, okay? So our large pumpkin is going to be in the orange. Now you can mix it up however you want, but I'm just going to show you what I'll be doing so you can kind of refer back to the example photos in the blog, and the link is down below. So the large pumpkin is going to be in the orange, the medium pumpkin is going to be in the green, and the small pumpkin at the top will be in the gold, okay? So we're going to scoot these over, and we're going to focus on the large one first. Okay, we're basically going to be starting out with 3 rectangles. We're just going to create 3 rectangles, and then the way we'll be seaming them up later on in our crochet along and stuffing them, it'll create pumpkins. So we have to get the sizing of our pumpkins correct. So we're going to do our 3 rectangles first for this week of the tutorial. So what we want to do is begin by putting a slip knot on our hook. And I'm just going to zoom way in. These are going to be really easy to stitch up. Wrap the yarn around your fingers to make the loop. Bring the yarn behind the loop. Reach in with your hook, bring up a loop, and tighten. Then we're going to do 60 chains. We're going to make a long, skinny rectangle, okay? To make a chain, we're going to wrap the yarn around the hook and bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 58, 59, and 60. So we have 60 chains here, and you can just see it's like a nice long row of chains. This will eventually be seamed and be our bottom pumpkin. But first, we're going to work on our rectangle. So what we want to do for row 1, now you're going to see when we do the other 2 sizes, the instructions are pretty much identical. It's just that starting chain that's a little bit different, okay? So what we want to do is in the second chain from the hook, we're going to work a half double crochet. So this loop here does not count. So go 1, 2. So in that chain there, we're going to make a half double crochet. To make a half double crochet, in case you're not familiar, wrap the yarn around the hook, insert it in that second chain from the hook, and bring up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on the hook. Wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it through all 3 loops, and that's it. So all we're going to simply do is work a half double crochet in each chain across, okay? So half double crochet into the next chain, half double crochet into the next chain, and so forth, okay? So let's do that all the way across, and we'll rejoin towards the end of this row, okay? If you need to back up or watch this in slow motion, YouTube has a slow motion feature, and you can back it up at any time and watch it if you need to do that, okay? So let's just work our half double crochets in each chain all the way across. Okay, just coming up to the end of row 1 for our large pumpkin. Just working that last half double crochet. Okay. Row 2 will be the row that you'll repeat for the rest of your pumpkin rectangle. So all you want to do is chain 2. And then in that first stitch here that you come to, just work a half double crochet in the first stitch and in each stitch across, and that's it. So half double crochet in the next stitch, half double crochet into the next stitch, and so forth, okay? So let's continue with row 2, and then when we come back, we'll kind of talk about how to keep going until your rectangle is the right size, okay? So keep going across, working a half double crochet in each stitch across, and we'll rejoin in just a minute. Okay, just coming up to the end of row 2, and you're just going to work in those last stitches, and then when you come to the end where we did that chain 2 and turn, just go in that topmost chain of that turning chain and also work a half double crochet in that topmost chain, okay? So row 2 is complete. So we have kind of like a long strip of half double crochet stitches. So now what we want to do for our pumpkin rectangle is to keep repeating row 2 until our pumpkin has a height of 10 inches, okay? So I'm actually going to move this aside because we're going to start working on our other 2 pumpkin rectangles. So just keep going with this large rectangle until it's 10 inches tall. Now, if you want to go back to the blog, the link is down below. I have all this measurements mapped out so you can kind of refer back to it. So let's scoot this over and grab our middle color now. So our middle color is the green, or whatever color you choose for your pumpkin tower. And I'm just going to grab the end here. And what I like to do for this plushy chenille yarn is I like to pull a little bit of the plushie off because it tends to like shed a little bit. So I like to just kind of help it out and have like a little tail there, okay? So for our middle pumpkin, we're gonna do a chain of 45 this time. So wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop, bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up a loop and tighten. And we're gonna do 45 chains, okay? So wrap the yarn around your hook and bring it through to make your chain. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 42, 43, 44, and 45. So our starting chain for our middle pumpkin is just a little bit shorter than our orange pumpkin, and that's on purpose because we're gonna make a medium pumpkin. Now we're just gonna do the same exact thing as we did before. In the second chain from our hook, we're gonna work a half double crochet. So we're doing this the same exact way, it's just the starting chain was a little bit different. And then the height will be a little bit different too, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So you're just gonna work a half double crochet in each chain across. This will seem pretty familiar. So just work your half double crochets in each chain across. I'm going to continue until we come up to the end of this row. We'll walk through rows 1 and 2 together for this. Even though we're repeating what we just did with the orange one, we'll go through these together as well. Okay, so just keep working half double crochets across, and when we rejoin, we'll move on from row 1 to row 2. Okay, just coming up to the end of row 1 for our middle pumpkin. And we're just going to do the same thing we did for our large pumpkin. Just work a half double crochet in that last chain, and then moving on to row 2, chain 2, turn your work, work a half double crochet in that first stitch and in every stitch across. So we're just doing the same thing. So work a half double crochet into the next stitch, half double crochet in the next stitch, and so forth, okay? So I'm going to keep going with row 2, and then we'll rejoin towards the end of this row and talk a little bit about the height that we need for this particular pumpkin as well. Okay, coming up to the end of row 2 for our medium pumpkin this time. And once again, work a half double crochet into that topmost chain at the end. Okay, so for the middle pumpkin, we're going to keep repeating row 2 until we have a height of 8 inches for this one, okay? So just to recap, our large pumpkin, we're going to repeat row 2 until we have 10 inches. For our middle pumpkin, we're going to be repeating row 2 until we have 8 inches, okay? All right, let's slide these out of the way, and we'll move on to our little pumpkin, okay? Let me just take this band off. And I just absolutely love these colors together. They're so festive for fall. Okay, so let's grab our little pumpkin yarn, whatever color you're choosing. I'm going to choose the gold for mine. I'm going to take a little bit of that fluffy off the edge so it won't shed on me. And what we're going to do for this one is pretty much the same thing again. We're going to put a slip knot on our hook. I'm going to move a little faster through this one because we've done this twice already. And for this one, we're going to do a chain of 28. So to make a chain, wrap that yarn around the hook, bring it through the loop. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. So as you can see, once again, our chain is a little bit smaller because we're doing our smallest pumpkin. Okay, so once again, we're going to just repeat the same thing we did before. I'll go through it. If you've kind of mastered this part of row 1 and row 2, you can just kind of skip through if you need to. So once again, we're going to work a half double crochet in the second chain from the hook. So this part should seem pretty familiar, and we're going to work a half double crochet in each chain across, okay? So go ahead and do that, and we'll rejoin in just a minute. Okay, just coming up to the end of row 1, same thing as the other 2 rectangles that we've made so far. Work your half double crochets all the way up to the end, and in that very last chain. Okay, so now for row 2, we're going to do the same thing we did for the other 2 row 2s, if that makes sense. We're going to chain 2, 1, 2, turn our work, and once again work a half double crochet into that first stitch and in each stitch across. Okay, so just keep going across with your half double crochet stitches in each stitch. Okay, once again, coming up to the end of row 2 for our littlest pumpkin. And we're just working a half double crochet all the way to the end, and also in that last topmost turning chain, okay? So for this one, we're going to keep repeating row 2 until we have a height of 6 inches, okay? So let's just recap our rectangles that we've created so far, because we're going to kind of go off and work on these as we move on to the next part of our crochet along next week, where we'll be working on the other components, and then in the last week of tutorials we'll be assembling everything, okay? So we have made 3 different strips today. This is our larger pumpkin, which will eventually be seamed and make a pumpkin. We're going to keep repeating row 2 until this is 10 inches tall, okay? For our medium pumpkin, we made a strip of green, and we're going to keep repeating row 2 until this is 8 inches tall, okay? For our littlest pumpkin, we're going to keep repeating row 2 until this rectangle is 6 inches tall, okay? So you can kind of see the beginnings of our little stack of pumpkins here, okay? So what we're going to do is keep working on our rectangles, and when we rejoin, I'm going to have them all in the heights that we discussed, and then we will kind of move on to the next part of the tutorial next week, okay? So work on your rectangles, and again, 10 inches tall, 8 inches tall, 6 inches tall, and we'll rejoin in just a minute, and I'm going to show you how they look. Okay, we're just working the last stitch of our 3rd pumpkin rectangle. Again, these are just rectangles right now. We're going to be turning them into pumpkins later on in our crochet along, okay? So as you can see, I just have a big rectangle here. So let's just kind of review. I'm not going to cut the yarn yet. Let's just kind of review what we have here, because as you can see, we have 3 different pieces. So just to recap, we have our gold. This is going to be our top pumpkin. And this was, we did a chain 28 and we worked rows of half double crochet until it was 6 inches tall, okay? So you use your tape measure and just kind of measure as you go along. So 6 inches tall in that. Our middle pumpkin, which I did green for mine, again, you can choose any color combination you like. I just like these. But my green was, let me just get it straightened out here. This one we did a chain 45 and it was 8 inches tall, okay? So then our third one, our base, our bottom largest pumpkin, we did a chain 60 and made it 10 inches tall, okay? So that concludes this part of our crochet along, because next week we are going to keep building the pieces and crocheting the pieces of our pumpkin stack here. We're going to make a leaf, a stem, and a curlicue. So that way in the week after that, we're going to put everything together and assemble it, okay? So what you'll want to do now is kind of put this stuff aside and work on the other parts next week. Again, we're going to make the stem with our brown yarn or whatever color you're using, a leaf with the green yarn, and we'll also do like a green curlicue, okay? Now, if you need your yarn and it's connected to your piece, you could do one of two things. You could just pull a large tail, because we're going to need this. We're going to seam our pumpkins up at some point soon. We're going to seam them and then cinch the top, cinch the bottom, okay? So pull a long piece of yarn out, or if you worked from the center, you can work from the outside and make your leaf that way, okay? So we're going to put these aside, work on the next components of our piece, and then the following week, we're going to put it all together and make a beautiful fall piece of decor. So stay tuned. I will see you next week. And if you haven't followed the Ravelry Crochet Along group and the Facebook Crochet Along group, be sure and follow those. Again, the links are below. I mentioned those at the beginning of the video, but the links are down below and you can join and say hello and share what you have. So I will see you next week. We're going to make some of the stuff to go on top next week. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.